got a lot going on, ladies and gentlemen. Smart Guys coming up. Also, Life Vac coming up in the business spotlight. First, though, a couple of storylines. No better person to bring in to talk about them. Jonathan Bell, you know him well from the Bell Law Group, BellG.com, employment attorney, job expert, founder of the Bell Law Group. We're going to talk about these two right now. We welcome in Mr. Bell. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Jay. Good morning to you.
Great having you, my friend. Let's go over the National University Medical Center. They sent a lawsuit by his former chief financial officer who alleged he was fired for blowing the whistle. All the effort to overstate the numbers, John. The patients that is COVID that the NUMC treated back in 2020. So John Mayer held that post, held it for about 8 years, fired in June of 2020, and the suit said the firing came after he disputed the hospital's decision to say the institution had treated 900 positive patients in 2020 in its application for reimbursement and everything else. So, listen, we've seen we're kind of used to fudging numbers, right? I mean, you look at the nursing home scandal and everything else, and this being kind of a derivative of that, my friend.
Yeah, well, you got to give it to John Mayer, the chief financial officer over there. He was getting, at least allegedly, according to the lawsuit, he was getting pressured both from the general counsel and the chairman to fudge these numbers. According to him and the data, apparently they treated, like you said, 625 COVID patients in 2020, and they were getting him to confirm that the hospital actually treated 900 COVID-positive patients, and that would have ended in a net result of $20 million more for the hospital. So there was a huge financial incentive behind that, and Mr. Mayer stood his ground and ultimately was terminated. Fortunately, Jay, there's the New York State Whistleblowers Protection Act, which has been recently expanded, and that certainly helped him in this situation. He's a whistleblower. By taking the actions that he did, he saw that a law was being broken. He stood his ground and ultimately was terminated for it, went to a lawyer, and it seems as though the case settled for a confidential amount. There hasn't been anything reported as to how much, but these whistleblowing statutes, which my firm handles, are great because you can get punitive damages. That's new with the expansion of the Whistleblower Act. You could get back pay. You could get front pay. You could actually get the job that you were terminated from, known as injunctive relief, if in fact you want it. So there's a lot that comes into play. Anytime an employee feels like the employer is breaking a rule, a law, a regulation, a statute, an executive order, a judicial decision, you can feel free to report that, whether it be to your employer, which used to be required, but now you can even go outside of your employer if you feel like your employer was aware of this and wouldn't correct it if you did report it. So it really levels the playing field and essentially empowers the employee to complain when they believe that the employer there is a violation.
Listen, like I said, we've seen this act before, kind of in reversal as far as how the state handled the nursing home deal in trying to downplay numbers and everything else. But for once, an employee actually has the upper hand here, which is kind of nice. I mean, it's almost like you don't have to fear the fact of termination based on the situation at hand of having some morality about yourself.
That's exactly right. And I don't know what took New York State so long. I mean, I'm glad they did, but, employees, just by the power situation, the fact that they normally need their job and need their paycheck, they have to usually, go with the flow, in essence, and feel pressured to do that. And now here's a specific statute that empowers you to speak out and correct the wrong from what your employer may be doing.
Bell Law Group Part 2 here. Mega Millions, now up to 810 million buckaroos tonight. And, it's interesting. you're the perfect guy to ask this because you know there are going to be an awful lot of lottery pools via the office. Always a lot of fun and everything else, but there's always a lot of question marks here, a lot of question marks, like who's involved in the buying of the tickets. Listen, if you win, how much do you divvy out? Are the people that are actually involved in the ticket, did they give money as part of that possible winnings there? There could be a lot of disputes here. What about the rights of people involved with this type of thing?
So, Jay, $810 million is Mega Millions. It's unbelievable. Did you buy tickets yet or no?
Doing it today. I will definitely be buying my tickets. And it's not going to be part of any office fund, I'll tell you what, because you know what? I want it all to myself.
Right. Right. Very good. So I can tell you that I've had some personal experience. I've had employees retain me once in this lottery pool, and I tell you, it's not a pretty situation. Because as soon as there's any threat of litigation, the lottery doesn't pay out anybody anything, even undisputed amounts. So they hold it, and it could be held up for years. So here's just some quick advice that to the extent you're in an office pool, number one, there should be a clear leader, and the leader should be in charge of accepting the money and buying the tickets and making copies of the tickets. There always should be a simple contract spelling out the big issue items like who's playing, how often you play, how much is involved, and if they want the lump sum versus the annuity. So if it's in a contract, it's clear. You should always have a public list, whether it be in your lunchroom or some other place, so everybody can see who's involved, so there's no dispute if someone's in or out. Jay, the case that I handled involved an employee who always played but happened to be out sick on a disability for a couple weeks, and they missed their contribution. But his theory was the fact that they should have contributed for him because of the fact that he's always been involved. So it could be very murky, and it could hold up these winnings by years, potentially.
They should do it. John, they should do it like the office does the Super Bowl pool. With the boxes, everybody gets in advance. The numbers are selected. It's clear as day as far as, who's winning after each quarter and everything else. Kind of treat it in that regard like a Super Bowl pool.
It should be very organized. The problem is that, it's usually not as much of an issue when the office gets together and plays once for, this $810 million. But there's a lot of office pools where it happens week after week after week, and those are the ones that have to be careful. Another issue of litigation I've seen is when someone goes and they buy the pool for the office, and then they claim that the winning ticket was from their personal stash, not that one. That's why it's important that you photocopy the tickets and you give it out to everybody before they're drawing, so there's no issue of that happening.
Yeah. By the way, another key thing, folks, I didn't know this till the other day. It's you do a lump sum and you can take an annuity. It's best to take an annuity. Take the payments. You actually get more money in the end. I think the last one, which was $553 million or so, you'd get $24 million more if you did the annuity rather than the lump sum. That's a little note of suggestion there. John, great stuff. Really good information there. Bell Law Group. John, of course, founder, the expert in it all, bellg.com. Good stuff, my friend. Stay well, and we'll talk to you next time. How's that?
All right, well, I don't know. If either of us hit the $810 million, I don't know if you're going to be talking to me.
Well, listen, you'll be talking to me. I ain't never leaving this job. Okay. And I don't care how many billion. No, I'm only kidding.
All right.
Hey, listen.
Have a good
good having you.
You.
You stay well. I'll be rooting for you tonight. Okay.
All right. Me too. Vice versa.
All righty. There you go. The great John Bell.